What is going on, everybody? I'm super excited to be here today to kind of break down how I play the probability game and how I use the Asia range and key liquidity points to basically beat the books and at the end of the day come up with a mechanical edge that you can obviously trust within the statistics side of things, right? So let's dive straight into it. Now, what do I mean? How do I play the probability game? How can it solve your trading, right? What obstacles are currently in place, right? So what you want to try and do, you want to operate like a machine. You want to have sample size rules, systematically applied edge, doing the same thing over and over again. You want to basically have a probability-based risk control in place. So that basically means applying the same sort of risk over and over again, really letting the probabilities play out. It's like flipping a coin. I'm going to get into that just a little bit later as well. And if you have a little bit more of a deep dive, it's also about really trying to overcome the mindset, right? You want to have a driven mindset, not to be obsessed with wins and losses. Right now, I'm exactly that, right? If I win, I really don't care. If I lose, I also do not care. You have to think like a robot. You have to be playing the same way over and over again, right? And in order to do that, you need to have a clear playbook, right? That's what I've got here. You need to be able to have repeatable setups. You need to be able to execute on these repeatable setups, and these setups need to be always measurable and at least documented to some degree, right? And I want to show you this is how pretty much I trade on a day-to-day basis, and this is how I use the PDX model to extract consistent payouts from the market by basically playing this probability game and playing this edge. So I've got this really cool simulation sort of probability picture that's right here in front of you, and think about it when you are flipping a coin, right? You can flip the coin 10 times, 5 times, however many times it might be. You need to be able to execute it on a daily basis, right? And when you have a mechanical edge, this allows you to do so. And at the end of the day, you might have a low probability strike rate. You might have a low sort of uh, a strike rate where, for example, maybe you only win 40% of the time, or maybe you only win 50% of the time. And that doesn't really matter, because if you have a good strike rate and you are able to play the same setup over and over again, you can capitalize on these moves and you can still be profitable, right? And I want to show you exactly how we do that in the alchemy. I want to show you how I use the Asia range liquidity and certain key buy side or sell side liquidity areas to really capitalize on these moves and actually be able to become a consistent and profitable trader, right? So let's dive into it. Let's dive into the charts. I want to show you here. We are actually already getting some nice setups coming through, and I'm actually doing this live, which is quite cool. But basically, what I'm looking for, right, on a day-to-day basis is a buildup of Asia range liquidity. Now, what I mean by that? How do I measure that? Now, it's the same thing day in and day out. You need to have your Asia range marked out from however you want to go about it. Certain people mark it out from 8 o'clock New York time to 12 p.m. That's how I personally do it. And if you have a look over here, this is a really cool little indicator that I've got here. It basically marks out my Asia high low and my Asia high. And that's basically what I'm looking for, right? So I'm combining two things. It's liquidity as well as the Asia range. Now, if you have a look over here, you can actually see that there is a low that's printed right over here. And if you have a look, that was also in alignment with this Asia range low here too, right? So what am I doing? What am I looking for? Well, two things, right? I'm looking for some sort of manipulation down here, which is basically based on what I was trying to explain to you in the previous example. I want to see some sort of price manipulate down into this downside. So this would be my accumulation. This would be my manipulation. Then I want to see price distribute back to the upside, right? How do I do that? How does it sound so simple? It's exactly what I'm showing you now on the chart, right? I am literally just waiting for two things to happen. Now, if you have a look over here, I'm just going to clear this out quickly. I'm going to play this out. So if you look, you can see price quite aggressively moves to the downside. Now this is happening just before Frankfurt Open, and this is also happening just before London Open, and that for me is quite a key and important kill zone that I'm looking for on a daily basis, right? So I can see here this is forming my sort of accumulation, which is what I just explained, and now we've started to manipulate to the downside, and all I'm really looking for is two things to happen, and that is pretty much my entry model to kind of play out on a daily basis. But I have to combine these two things together. I have to combine the Asia range liquidity with some sort of key buy side or sell side liquidity area. Now, in this instance, my key sell side liquidity area was, in fact, my Asia low, right? So Asia low was taken down here. I'm going to mark that out for you quickly. and you can see that price is now moved down to the downside, and now what I'm looking for is some sort of reversal back to the upside. Some call this a head and shoulders. I like to just think of it as a sort of mechanical edge that you want to, if you want to call it that way. You can just repeat on the same thing over and over again. And remember, this is how I basically formulate the PDX model. I'm just showing you snippets of what my model actually comprises of and how it actually looks. And this is exactly what we are looking for, right? So this will be my pretty much my high. This would be my protected, most immediate protected high, which is marked out again by my fractal high over there. This would be my protected low over here, and you can see how we have now swept this liquidity low here. So there's two things I'm waiting for. One is I'm waiting for some sort of break above this high, and I want to get on the retest. So I want to either try capitalize on the move straight away, or I want to see if price maybe pulls back a little bit deeper and then continues like that, for example, right? So what I will try and do is I'll wait for price to give me a clear answer. 9 times out of 10, I will see maybe price doing something like this. So in this instance, for example, I would have used something as simple as a buy stop entry, right? I would have then put my stop loss below this low, and I would have been trying to target something just above this Asia range high, which would be my key buy side liquidity area. And I try to play the probability game, and the way in which I do that is by targeting a fixed R. So in this instance, my risk to reward is going to be a fixed 2 to 1, and I will look to trade it back into the highs of around 1.8480, right? Now, sometimes price might come back and give me a sort of double confirmation entry or some sort of pullback entry, which would have looked something like this, and then continuation back to the upside. And here you can often use something like your Fibonacci or some sort of pricing tool where you can work out some sort of discounted area. And in this instance, you would have seen actually we didn't get that, right? Price just rocketed up to the upside. We took this key buy side liquidity area sitting at my Asia high, and that was just below my 2R, so I would have either just partialed off there a little bit, but sometimes I just actually let the full 2R play out, and then by the end of the day, well, in this instance, by the time we had finished trading London kill zone, I had already grabbed my 2R for the day, and it is exactly that simple. That is exactly what my PDX model aims to do on a daily basis. Pretty much capitalizing again on that AMD sort of manipulation and distribution sort of pattern. And these all form really key parts of how I tie the Asia range key liquidity areas, whether that be buy side or sell side, as well as the AMD pattern into my sort of PDX model, which we trade within the Alchemy. Now, if this is something that really looks really interesting to you and you want to know a little bit more about how you can trade like this and how you can effortlessly execute on these positions on a daily basis, please check out my bio. You can feel free to apply through to our membership, where we obviously have our monthly intake, and you'll be able to obviously evaluate, or we'll be able to evaluate whether we think you're a good candidate for the role. And that is pretty much what we are looking to do on a daily and sort of weekly basis. We're looking to capitalize on two things. One, build and grow with our community, and on the second thing, take such easy trades like this. So if this is something that interests you, you can check the link in my bio, or you can check the link in this description. And remember to like and subscribe for more further content like this. Cheers, guys.